Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Live from Sunset Gower Studios, The Amazing Hour with Joanne O'Brien and Sabrina Johnson.
There's a power here within me. There's a strength that's deep inside. If I'm willing to be willing, the field is open wide. And I know I have the courage, so I push my fears aside and allow these words of truth be heard from every mountain high. I am amazing, I am amazing. There's nothing I can't do. I am amazing, I am amazing. And you're amazing too. We share a vision, we share a dream. Are you ready? Slow and steady, we are making history. 'Cause we are amazing.
Well, welcome everyone to our 22nd episode of The Amazing Hour, where we celebrate everyday superstars. We are coming to you not live tonight. We're actually pre-recorded tonight because Sabrina is going to tell you about what she's got going on. And but we are located in the heart of Hollywood at the Sunset Gower Studios on the lot here at UBN Radio. And you can go to ubnradio.com, but you're there right now because you're watching us. So I'm Joanne O'Brien.
And I'm Sabrina Johnson.
Yay!
And we usually take this time for our amazing highlight.
We do. But since the show hasn't, we're recording it before our amazing week will have happened. Let's just project into the future. What have you got going on? What might have happened by the time they see this show?
Well, by the time they see the show, actually, when they see the show next week, I'll probably be sleeping from a long day in Barre, Massachusetts, which is in the middle of Massachusetts, at a selfcompassion.org training, which is about mindfulness meditation, which is the big key buzzword. But this is also heartfulness. So it's both, and it's training. So when I come back, I hope to be able to teach it and, of course, practice it, and it will be wonderful. It'll be fall. It will be fall, which is like in...
It'll be fall there, yeah. You'll have to bring your sweaters. You'll have to bring your wraps.
Yes, it won't be
what
this
fun.
It won't be this tropical weather that we have all year here.
What fun.
I know. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And I really encourage everybody to go to selfcompassion.org and watch the TED Talk of the founder of this, grew out of UC San Diego. And she talks about...
What's her name?
I don't know her name.
Okay, so go to TED Talk and look up
selfcompassion.org.
Selfcompassion.org.
And when we had our guest Irvina Cantor a few weeks ago, she said something so wise for her age. She said, everyone talks about self-esteem. And self-esteem is one thing, but self-compassion is so important. It's not the same. And it's much more essential to happiness.
Right. And when you see the show, I will have given a talk on kindness as a spiritual practice. So it seems to be the theme: compassion, kindness, empathy, but self-love.
Yes.
So fun. Gosh, my week, I've kind of had a non-eventful week planned. I really don't have too much. I know a lot to look forward to because I will be at a conference in Long Beach. There'll probably be around 16,000 of us. Wow. Oh my God, we're all there for a skincare, anti-aging. For many of you know, I'm a big fan of Nerium, as are you, as our guest also appreciates that product.
Wow.
I hope I'm not outing her. Okay. But let's see. A couple of other things we've got going on. So my talk was on Sunday, and there will be video of that. And then I am rehearsing right now for the there's a week-long four cabaret shows, and I am one of them. My show is on October 27th at Vitello's. It is very close to sold out. The Gardenia one is sold out. And our evening is all Stephen Schwartz. So I will be singing Chanson, and I will be singing Meadowlark. So would love for you to come out, and you can go to Brown Paper Bag Tickets and check that out. I think we might have something up on the screen. And
we have one of our guests will also be singing there. One of our former guests.
Who's going to be there?
Kelly Lester.
Oh, Kelly Lester's going to be on the same night with me. How could I forget that? So Kelly Lester will be there. Kelly was Easy Lunchboxes. She is the mompreneur who is a singer and inventor of sorts who created this thing called Easy Lunchboxes and took it to #1 on Amazon.
And I'll be back in time to be there. I bought my ticket.
And you will be back in time to be there.
And I bought it early. By the time you watch this, you won't get the 20% discount I got.
Right.
I got the 20% discount.
So we've got that going on. And let's see. We've been really doing great on Twitter and lighting things up on our Facebook page. So if you could just keep spreading the word, it's working. And we're really grateful to you for that. So without further ado, I want to get to our guest. So can I introduce our guest, or do you want to introduce our guest? Okay, so I have known our guest for 20 years. I'm going to let her let you know how we might know each other if she wants to let you know how we know each other. And if she doesn't, it'll just be our secret, and y'all can just write in. Or maybe it'll be the question of the day. How did Cindy and Joanne really know each other?
Gosh.
Oh, that could be
6
fun.
degrees of Cindy and Joanne.
6 degrees of Cindy and Joanne. So Cindy Shapiro is here. Cindy Shapiro Wall.
No, Cindy Shapiro.
It is Cindy Shapiro?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, Cindy Shapiro. Cindy Shapiro, I got that one wrong. Excuse me. Cindy is, first of all, she's an incredible performing artist. She is a singer extraordinaire. She's a composer, which is what I'm so excited to talk to her about because it's not something I knew, and I kind of got to watch her go through this process, which she will tell us about. And she's a librettist. So she wrote a rock opera called Psyche that I had the good fortune of being a little bit part of, and then got to see its premiere, which was spectacular. She's a cantor. She's a mom. She is a super smart woman that I am very inspired by, and I totally adore and really admire, and I'm super excited to have her on the show. Cindy Shapiro.
Woo!
Isn't that amazing? I know, right?
Our audience of millions.
The orbs are clapping. The orbs are clapping. Cindy, welcome.
Cuts off.
I know, cuts off. I know. Well, we tell them, stop it. Stop it. Right now. Stop it. They're all on a timeout. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Oh my gosh. Well, we go a long way back, and I'm not even sure where we want to start, but the first thing I want to talk about is Psyche. Because this was an extraordinary feat, and you are someone who had an idea, and then you weren't a composer before this, or were you a composer of sorts?
I was a writer. I mean, the way I look at it is I was more working in the short form medium. So if I was a writer of books, I would be writing short stories. A compendium of short stories would be like an album that I wrote. Okay, so this would be the equivalent of writing my first novel, my long form work. So this is the first long form connected narrative work that I've written.
Okay, yeah. And tell us what it is.
Yes.
It's Psyche,
a
rock opera.
A modern rock opera. And, we stuck the word modern in there because calling it a rock opera is a bit of a misnomer. Because as you may remember, there's a lot of kind of neoclassical music in there. There's a lot of kind of postmodern minimalism in there. There's strange choral work in there, highly clustered, that's a cappella, which doesn't really read as rock. But because there's a rock band as part of the instrumentation, and because there are rock songs in it, and I very definitively wanted to have, hey, here's a really testosterone-laden song, ladies and gentlemen, that the lady wrote. I can do it too. So I made sure there was at least one in there that really rocked.
Hot. There were some hot moments in there, I must say.
Well, that had more to do with casting than what I wrote.
That's okay. Let me believe whatever. I enjoyed looking.
Yeah, there was some eye candy on stage.
There was
for sure,
some
no
serious
question.
eye candy.
Yes. No question about that.
And I never thought I would be someone that was appreciating eye candy, but you couldn't help
But
it.
there it was, right there.
There it was right there in leather
in
pants.
the flesh, in leather pants.
It was great.
I know.
Well,
we all know.
It's based on Greek mythology, right?
Yes,
So
it's
the
a
Greek
myth.
gods were known for their beauties.
Yes, especially Eros, who is the featured male character in the story. So, when you're casting Eros, you gotta pick the right kind of
get the right
guy.
You got to get the right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a Mike Starr, that was the fellow who played Eros in our show.
And how did you
fan
find Mike
club.
Starr? That
Mike
sounds like a.
Auditioned
That sounds,
along with several hundred other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Mike Starr is his
Mike
name.
Starr. Yeah.
Sounds-
He just graduated from UCLA, the musical theater program.
Wow.
He and the woman who played Psyche had their very last class, 4 years on campus at UCLA. Went to their last class, got in a car, drove to auditions, and both got cast in leads.
Isn't that
Boom.
fun? Good for them.
Kaboom.
We love stories like that.
Yeah.
We love stories like that. Okay, so all right.
So tell me about Psyche, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be a little bit pushy here, because you two just talk like you're just like having coffee.
Blobbity,
I
which is
know,
so
I know.
great
Go
because-
ahead, because
Because I this is what I know about Psyche. Joanne called me after she saw it. She said, "Wow, we have to get her on." And what she said, the show is great, and she said, and I love witnessing this in product so far of what I knew from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
When you got the grant, when Cindy got this grant, this fellowship, went to Paris, wrote it, came back, and ta-da!
yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. I mean, to witness, like, you were in it. So on the outside, I mean, I certainly wasn't there every day during your process of it, but take us through the process of when it was inception and then that form, because I think a lot of people, they'll go to see something and they think, there's no way I could ever do that, or how did that happen? And I mean, did you actually ever see it on stage in your mind a long time ago, the way it unfolded?
I wouldn't say I saw it in my mind exactly the way it unfolded. I mean, I like to say that when I was composing it in my head, I saw a couple of lights and a couple of sticks of furniture and some people like walking across the stage, which is why I had to find a really cool director to work with me, hand in glove, so the visuals and the music and sound went together. And luckily, I found the absolutely brilliant. You saw the show,
Absolutely.
Michael Matthews.
Michael
But
Matthews is amazing.
That's fast forwarding ahead of
Yes,
the
so,
story.
yeah.
So Psyche, what is Psyche in the Greek mythology? Who is Psyche? What's that about? How did you get attracted to Psyche as the character?
Yeah. So in 2006, I was taking a class at Antioch University, LA, and I took a class called Myth and the Psyche, small p. And we studied, it was like a survey of mythology from around the world and all different ages. And one of the myths that we examined was the story of Psyche. And I was really perplexed a little bit. Why is this character, capital P, Psyche? How did that character's name get to be this notion of this imprint of the soul? You know, like, how do those two things? I couldn't understand how those two things
And what
connected.
is the character of Psyche? I mean, I'm a lit major, but I'm not that familiar with Psyche.
Most people are not familiar with
Okay.
Psyche, so you are not in the minority
And
there.
who taught your class at Antioch? Because I know lots of teachers there.
Oh, the teacher was Lali Regana.
Okay.
That's her name. She was a fantastic teacher. And the book that we read was the Apuleius version of the story. Apuleius was a Roman writer in like the year 27. He wrote what's considered the first novel, which is called The Golden Ass.
Oh,
and
yes.
Psyche is a
Yes.
story. It's like a little sub-story within there. Like an old lady in the story tells this as a bedtime story
Now,
to
would that be in the
children.
Golden Bough as well?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
So it's in the Golden Ass,
Okay.
and so it was codified by Apuleius in Latin, but it's a much older myth, a Greek myth, and so I read a translation of the Latin, and then there was this very deep analysis by a Jungian, actually one of Jung's disciples. Like, Jung was still alive when this analysis was written by Erich Neumann, and it's very heady stuff. And Neumann sent this analysis to Jung himself, one of my heroes, and Jung blessed it and said, yes, I agree, this is what this is. So the notion of this story, well, so here's the thing. So every single princess story you have ever heard in your life is all based on Psyche's story.
Okay.
So Psyche is a princess.
Who was her father?
Her father was the king. Her mother was the queen of a local, kingdom
So she
somewhere in
didn't come
Greece.
from Zeus or anything.
No, she was a girl, a human girl.
Okay.
And she was quite beautiful. And everyone started worshiping her as if she were a goddess. She had 2 older sisters, starting to sound like a thing.
Yes,
2 older
Cinderella,
sisters.
yes.
And the older sisters had been married off to kings in other kingdoms and were sort of away during the first part of Psyche's story. So Psyche's being worshipped as if she were a goddess, and she's very perplexed by this because even though she's a child of privilege, she's quite beautiful and she's a princess, so she's got money. She's very internally impoverished. She's sad, she's lonely, she's not finding anybody
She's kind
to
of like
love.
an only child.
She's kind of an only child, but she's very confused by her fame. I mean, really, sometimes when I was writing it, I kept thinking of like the Britney Spears of the world. People who get too famous, too young, and don't know how to handle it and really crack under that pressure.
Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, people like that.
Yeah.
And so she's being worshipped as if she were Aphrodite. So Aphrodite gets wind of this and really is not happy. So Aphrodite decides she is going to just have some fun, play a trick on this girl, get rid of her. So she calls her son Eros, the god of love, the god of sex, to her. And she says, we're going to do this thing to this girl. We're going to have you shoot an arrow into her heart and have her fall in love with the most horrible creature we can ever think of. And she'll marry that person and go off and we'll never hear from her again. And, Eros is really cool with this idea. Eros and Aphrodite are also lovers because, hey, Greek mythology.
Yeah.
So
Mother and son.
yeah.
Yeah.
Creepy, but it is.
So, and so later on, when Eros is falling in love with Psyche, not only is he defying his mother by deifying Psyche herself and not executing this plan, but he's also cheating on his mother. Right? So there's that aspect of it. So when he goes to, meanwhile, Psyche says to her father, I don't understand what's happening to me. Please go seek the oracle of Apollo, and he'll tell you what to do, what I should be doing next, because this is not making sense. And so the father, the king, goes to Apollo and begs for, and the oracle begs for a prophecy. And basically what Apollo tells her is that she has to jump off a cliff and die. So what you're talking about is the sacrifice of the virgin. I mean, you can get into these really heady.
And she's confused because she's falling in love with Eros? Or
No,
not?
she hasn't met him
Oh,
yet.
she hasn't met him yet.
She's still in this state where she's famous and doesn't understand it. Her father comes back and says, look, you got to put on funeral robes and jump off a cliff. Sorry. Everyone's very upset. There's a lot of crying and, wailing and, gnashing of teeth. Yeah.
Ganache, ganache.
She marches to the edge of the cliff and everyone leaves her there. They can't stand to watch her jump. And Eros is there to shoot an arrow into her, but he's really captivated by her bravery, her beauty, her grace. And so she jumps. She actually jumps, but he has the western wind intercede and carry her down. And when she's down, she's suddenly in Eros's world. There's servants there who she can't see, disembodied servants. There's riches, there's treasures, there's jewels, there's, beauty everywhere. And they all tell her, these disembodied voices, we're your servants, we're here to serve you, and don't be confused, this is all for you. And she falls asleep, and he comes in to have his way with her. He's rendered himself totally invisible. He comes in to have his way with her, never expecting to have any kind of emotional connection. This is like a rake. This is like a kid. This is like the teen version of Cupid, right? Cupid with a big you-know-what. Right. So anyway, he comes in to have his way with her, and instead what happens is they have this incredible spark between them. And so they fall in love, and without going into the whole entire myth, basically what ends up happening is that her sisters come, they figure out that she's in some kind of state where she's a very rich woman. They puncture this, they puncture the perfection of this dark relationship that she's in with Eros. And I say dark because he only comes to her at night and she doesn't know who he is, but they still are having.
And she's not allowed to look at him. Isn't that true?
She's never allowed to see his face.
Yeah.
Because, if she saw his face, then she would know it was Eros, and then word could get back to his mother, and she's a very powerful goddess. And so the sisters convince Psyche that she's married a monster, because they have a feeling it's probably a god. And they know that if she tries to kill a god, she'll get killed, and that then they might have a shot at being with him. So you have a situation where you've got this young girl, human girl with a lamp and a dagger going to kill a god thinking he's a monster. Anytime you ever see a piece of art that's a girl with a lamp and a dagger, it is always Psyche, always, always, always Psyche.
Oh, I love that. I have to make a note of that.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Lamp and dagger.
Cindy, I'm just like having so much fun because I said I'm a lit chick, you know. I just am like having so much fun listening to this.
That would be a cool production company. Lamp and
Yes.
Dagger Productions.
Lamp and
Yes.
dagger.
Lamp
with dagger
and Dagger
with lamp in
Productions.
hand. With dagger and with
Oh, I
lamp in
love
hand.
that.
Yeah.
So
she
So-
goes to kill him, but instead she shines a light on him and sees it's Eros. Accidentally spills hot oil on him, burns him. He takes off. She goes to follow him. She gets caught up by Aphrodite. Aphrodite catches her, apprehends her, puts her through 4 horrific tasks, which she manages to overcome by the help of things like friendly ants, or a little reed in the river is talking to her and whispering to her a solution to this problem. It's a lot of Deus Ex Machina, frankly. But the thing is that if you think about Cinderella, you've got birds and mice that are helpful. I mean, it tracks with Beauty and the Beast. It tracks with Sleeping Beauty. It tracks with Snow White. It tracks with Cinderella. It is the absolute root story of any story like that you ever want to hear. And of course, at the very end, Psyche's soul has gone through all this turmoil, these trials. She's triumphed over them. She's managed to integrate all the things that she's learned without the help, by the way, of Eros, which makes it different than these fairy tales, right? Because in fairy tales, you've got the princess being saved by the handsome prince, and she's, damsel in distress, and she has no agency, right? Psyche has agency. So at the end, she is made a goddess. She's the goddess of the soul. And there were cults to Psyche. Psyche and Eros have a baby at one point, and there were cults to that baby. So that is the story of Psyche. So it's the human story.
All
right.
I am like
What an
absolutely-
education.
Yeah, and when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, of course you wanted to make a play about this. Or I mean, I don't know if you saw years ago, but like one of my favorite plays at the Amundsen was Metamorphosis, where they took the whole idea of Zeus's son goes into therapy because
I didn't see it, but
you heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole idea of this being a modern play,
yeah.
I could see
So
this.
you had this idea, and then you just take us from that idea to Grant, Paris, home, reading, really cool production with like Cirque du Soleil stuff going on. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
How did that
I was
happen?
like, it's the simple things that get me completely entertained. I'm like, wow, hot people in a sling.
It is something to look at. I mean, there's a lot to look at on that stage.
yeah.
Okay, so I read The Myth in 2006, and then I was going through a divorce with my husband. And so I was kind of looking at The Myth from a very particular perspective, from the the wounded spouse perspective, and so I decided I was going to write a song cycle based on Psyche, and I wrote a few songs, and I never ever was thinking, hey, I'll write an opera. At that point, I was just thinking I could probably crank out a few songs because this myth is speaking to me based on things that are happening in my life. Then my husband and I did not get a divorce. Hurrah! When does that
I'm
happen?
very happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it
the
was
good
really
news.
like we were separated. There were lawyers. It was the whole thing, and then we reconciled.
Wow.
So I know we reconciled. So and I had to take another look at The Myth because it had a completely different complexion to me after that, because it was I just had a clouded view of what it was about because I was going through a very specific, very narrow set of emotions, and when that part of my life opened back up, then I could look at the whole myth and go, okay, now really what is this about? And then The Myth spoke to me even more strongly because really the whole message of Psyche, because both Psyche and Eros go through these trials and tribulations, and it's not until each one of them comes into their own individuation that they can come into real relationship. Yeah. So how did I come into my own individuation with, outside of my husband, which is why I'm not Cindy Shapiro Wall, which is why I'm Cindy Shapiro, right? is because I wrote an opera about Psyche. I mean, it's
I
all
love it.
very,
I love
you know,
that.
like self-unfolding.
And so this is like a major question for me is that you wrote a major part of this in Paris.
I did.
Away from your husband
That's
that
right.
you are still with
Right.
and love and have a great relationship. So tell us about
That guy? No.
Yeah. So tell us about the fact that you first of all you applied for a grant. Was that what it was?
It's not. It wasn't a grant. It was an artist in residency.
An artist
in
in
Paris.
residency.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for those of us that don't know what that means?
It can mean a number of different things, but mostly it means that you are provided a place to live for a period of time, to live a kind of insular artist life and just focus on your work.
And your expenses are paid.
No, not really. Not always. Sometimes there's a stipend, sometimes not. Let me just backtrack and say that I've always wanted to do work in Paris.
Okay.
My whole life.
Okay.
And at some point I just said, I think I'm going to apply for a residency. I want to live in the city of Paris and I want to, soak up everything that's there, and then I want to squeeze it all back out into my work there.
And do you speak French?
I do pretty well.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, right now I probably would be all lost if somebody just started blabbering to me in French, because they tend to talk really fast there. And I would just say, un petit peu lentement, s'il vous plaît, parce que je suis américaine, blah, blah, blah. Like, please speak a little more slowly, because I have no idea what you're saying. So if they could go a little more slowly, I could get what they were saying. My accent's good because I'm an operatically trained singer,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
we get that cheat. People are like, oh
We
my
do.
God, your accent's like, it doesn't mean I have access to actual vocabulary.
I
But
know,
anyway,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So, but my French is good enough. But I'll tell you. So anyway, I started doing research. I found this place called Cité Internationale des Arts. It's been around since City International of the Arts. It's been around since like the 1960s. It's run by the French Ministry of Culture. It's a very rigorous application process. I applied as a composer. I had to write a proposal. I had to send scores. I had to send recordings. And then I had to sit and wait for 9 months to see whether I'd even gotten in. And one day, so I applied in November, and the following July, a letter came in French. And I looked at the letter and I thought, I think it's saying I got in. And then I thought, my French is pretty good. I think it's saying I got in. It can't be. I have to be reading that. It can't be right. But I think it's right. So I went to my husband and he goes, call them up, see if they have your room, see what's going on. So
That's so logical.
I can picture him
He's
doing
so
that.
funny.
So logical.
Come on, just pick up the phone and call them. So I called the office, and they didn't speak any English, so I conducted this whole conversation in French. Yes, Ms. Shapiro, we have a room for you. We're waiting for you. You'll come in September, blah, 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 blah. So basically, what this is this huge set of buildings right on the Seine in the 4th arrondissement. If you've been to Paris, it's the Marais. It's like the coolest, artiest section of Paris. My studio looked, my windows, I looked right at Notre Dame. It was right
This
there.
was September of 2011, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what they provide for you is is expensive real estate in a really fantastic area of town for like nothing, right? So you pay a little bit, but it's like nothing.
So it's subsidized.
Yeah. And you pay for your own food and you pay for your own trip, but you're there in the company of about 350 other artists. Not one person is doing what anybody else is doing.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm like, okay, this looks like a real thing. I say, and my daughter was just about to start high school. So high school,
I
she was
remember
in
this.
9th grade. And I kept saying, well, hey, if you don't like high school, it was like 2 weeks of high school before I was going to leave. I said, look, if it's not working out, I'll defer. I'm not going to go and like leave you.
Yes.
And she was nervous about starting high school, public high school, blah, blah, blah. She goes to a charter school. Anyway, she went to school, and by day 2, she was like, I love this school. She loves it. She's about to graduate, and she loves her school. She loves her friends. So I felt okay about abandoning my 14-year-old. And, there's always Skype, and there's always, ways to communicate. It's the modern world. And I was really excited to just go and be on my own and discover what that all meant.
And so how long were you there?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months. So, Jack drove me to the airport. I had a computer, I had a microphone, a guitar and a keyboard, and some clothes. And I said to him, get ready for a midnight tearful phone call. It was all a big mistake. I'm like, I will not believe this is a real thing until I have the key and the door is shut behind me and I'm sitting by myself in my atelier, right? And that happened.
And
I love it.
And I love on
You're
your
so
blog,
courageous.
And on your blog, you
your
show people.
vlog.
Yeah,
My
your
vlog.
Her vlog. That was fun to
I
follow
vlog- yeah,
that.
I
Yeah,
vlogged
and you
it.
show a video of where you live.
Yeah, I
And
walked
it was
through.
wonderful.
Oh, good. Yeah, it didn't make you dizzy?
No, I was actually quite in awe of how you were so productive in such a small space.
Oh my God, that space. You know, there were different size spaces in this huge building, and I just happened to get a really small one. When they walked me up there, the woman who let me in said, "Oh my God, this is a really small studio." And she went to the people who were running the space and said, "Can she get a bigger place?" And they said, "No, this is what she's got, and maybe in a month or so." And once I was moved in, it was fine. It was small, but it was fine. And people kept saying, "What's it like there?" And I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be like. It could be like a cot and a hot plate for all I know. And you know what? It was basically a cot and a hot plate. Honestly, it was like super like simple living. It was
had
like
room for your
dorm life.
keyboard.
I had a room. I had a desk.
Yeah,
I did not have an oven.
yeah,
I had 2 burners,
yeah.
teeny refrigerator, private bathroom, 1 person body bed, no television, no carpeting. Nothing really
Was it clean?
warm. It was clean, yeah. They wouldn't turn the heat on until sometime in way late in October. I've lived in Southern California
I
for
know.
20 years. I was really, really cold.
So you got a lot of work done.
So I walked every day. I did this thing that's called you can either call it being a flaneur or psychogeography, which is this walking with mindfulness but without purpose. The surrealists did it to sort of uncork their imagination. The situationists did it to uncover social strata. I did it for artistic reasons. And, I would start out in the morning with no destination. And just...
And what did you say you called that?
It's either called being a flaneur, F-L-A-N-E-U-R, flaneur, or flânerie, or it's called psychogeography.
Psychogeography,
Yeah,
right.
That's that's the highfalutin.
Yeah, I think there was a professor at Antioch that I had at CSUN, Kate Haig, and she used to talk about that. And she used to talk about going in the city that you never knew.
Yes. Yeah, and the psychogeography people would do things like take a map of London and have, here's our starting place in London and here's our ending place in London, and then map that into Paris and walk that, and wherever you happen to be based on this other map, that's where you would go. So anyway, I did a lot of that. And this was one of the coolest things was that when I arrived there, everybody who is an artist at Cité is issued an artist card by the government. So this artist card was like a little, picture photo ID that said for the period of time that I was living in Paris that I was an official artist and that I could basically go to almost any museum for free and go right to the front of the line. It was
That is
ridiculous.
amazing.
It was
Wow.
ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
Ridiculous.
So how much writing did you get done while you were there?
I wrote about somewhere between a half and 2/3 of the opera.
Okay.
And it is an opera. There's no talking.
Yes,
dialogue.
it is an
Yeah.
opera for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Did you do any other work besides that? Did you come up with any other pieces that had nothing to do with it, or was it fully focused on that?
Oh, I did a gig. I
Okay.
had a gig. Yeah. So I had to pull over and, oh my God, I got to come up with 2 sets of music. And so, I spent a few days hammering away at, 2 full sets.
What kind of gig?
It was a gig at this little rock kind of bar club, in the middle of
And
Paris.
what'd you sing?
Oh God, I don't even
Did you do any
remember.
Kate Bush?
No, I didn't do Kate Bush.
Ah, I'm a big Kate fan.
Yeah, no, I did some covers. I did some original stuff. I played some stuff on keyboard and sang. I played some guitar and sang.
And all right, so you went there and you did that, and because I don't want to miss out on some of the other really great stuff that shaped you into this person that you are and are continuing to evolve and blossom into, which is really fun because there's you got a lot of layers, and
There's more going to happen.
There's more going to happen
sometime.
But you came back,
Yeah.
and then so get us to the first reading, which I was a part of.
You were a part of.
Yes,
yeah.
it was, which was like an accident.
Yeah, you were.
And it was a
you
great
sang
accident
soprano
for
and you were
me.
Did you play
beautiful.
Psyche?
I did not play Psyche, but thank you for thinking I'm that
Okay.
young. It's my skincare.
Okay.
Miriam will make you Psyche.
Yeah. That's a great line.
That's a good one.
That's
Oh my
a
God,
great
that
line.
is good.
That's a great line.
Or at least they'll have arrows hot on your tail.
Okay, so when I got home, at first I thought, oh, I need to find a producer. So I
Hey,
started
will you
looking
throw
for
a picture
producer.
of Psyche up there? Maybe you already have it up there, just so people can see it, because it's just so cool.
Yeah, we commissioned that piece of art, and it really suits the mood of the show. Anyway, so I thought I needed a producer. I started looking for a producer, and then I realized I really needed a visual partner. So I started doing research, and I'm going to swear for a moment on who the hot shit directors are in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's okay. You can say
in
hot shit on the
theater.
show.
Hot shit. That would be all roads leading to a director's name is Michael Matthews. And Michael, I didn't know Michael. I had no connection to him, and I did some research, and I cold emailed Michael. Dear Mr. Matthews, you don't know me, but I'm working on this project. And I thought, you just hit send and it goes into the ether and whatever. And the next day I heard from his agent's office, Michael received your email and he's interested in talking to you. Do you have like an outline or something you can send him? So the thing that's lucky for me as a composer is that I have an almost 4-octave range, somewhere between 3.5 and 4. So, and it's not really at the top. My top note is a B flat. You can sing circles around me at the top. But I have a really low voice for a lady. So I can sing the C below middle C, I can get to a G below that.
That's
It's
awesome.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I could sing all the parts. I sang every part. I sang Zeus. I sang Eros. I sang everything. I sang all the choral parts. I didn't have to hire anybody. I didn't have to find a guy to waltz into my studio and just like, can you execute this part for me? Because I need to hear how it actually sounds. So I had MP3s of the whole opera plus a libretto. So I just, here's the, digital version of it. And then a week later, I got a phone call from his agent's office. Michael and his agent Victoria would like to meet you at her office to discuss Psyche. And I'm like, I said to my husband, I don't know what to say to these people. Like, they were like, do you have money to put up the show? And I'm like, no, the show's not even done. Like, I wasn't even done writing it. And I'm like, I don't know why they want to meet with me. And I don't know what to say. I'm trying to strategize on saying something. And I just said, all right, you know what? I'm just going to put on a suit and I'm going to go to this office and see what happens. So I go to the office and they said, who are you? And and it's kind of like, nobody. I mean, it was really like, I don't know how to explain.
Not anymore,
well,
though.
No. I'm not trying to be self-deprecating.
No, but-
The
but
point
yeah,
is that I was
nobody heard
nobody
you.
in that universe.
You
But
know, we have something here that we've had different guests say. You build the airplane while you're flying it.
Yep.
yeah, it's right.
Yep.
I always say that I'm a side door kind of person. I've had several really deep careers that ran for several years, and they were all really different from one another, and I always walked right through the side door, like I never went the normal
And
way.
I want to make sure we touch on those careers
Yeah.
because we got 15 minutes left on the
15?
show. Can
Yeah.
you believe it?
Yeah.
15.
I'll walk you through really quickly. I started out, I was an opera and theater major. I dropped out. I dropped that. Then I started studying computer science because my father had been one of the original people who created LexisNexis in the 70s.
Wow.
That's right. My
Wow.
dad
I
helped write that business plan.
I work for attorneys, so I know.
So
LexisNexis.
you know. So that was the
was
first
huge.
commercial database. So anyway,
Yeah.
I was always really interested in technology and math. So I dropped out of school. I was a programmer. I was a coder. It was me in a room with a bunch of guys, usually writing code. Then I got very bored with writing code. I wanted to do something creative writing code. So I got a job in New York with a company called Transfiction Systems. And we made interactive fiction, human behavior modeling systems. We did
Okay, I didn't even know this about her.
You
No,
didn't?
I didn't. No, I had no clue.
Political simulations was kind of the specialty of the company, and I was like, I died and went to heaven. It's creative and it's technology and it's computers and blah 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 blah. I was super happy, and I started thinking about how our systems that we were creating related to the Jungian notion of personality and the grouping the groupings of archetypes. And so I wrote my own code that was based on Jungian archetypes, where there would be one on-screen character that would talk to you interactively over a period of time. Underneath the hood, behind the scenes, were these archetypes that were, there was only one that was talking at any one time, and that archetype might be, you know, the enraged one, or the nurturing one, or the, you know, the industrious one, whatever it was. And that one was the one that was talking through my story. So it was like this kind of
so you
new.
did that
I
in
did
New
that.
York,
That was a game.
and that was a game.
Yeah.
And what was it called?
It was called Relationship on a Disc.
Get out of town.
Is it still around?
It was more of an engine that I developed that could create interactive autobiography that anybody wanted. It was kind of like a tool that you could use to create an on-screen character from scratch as a writer, as an interactive writer. So I was
So you
doing
moved from that into.
Then I came out to LA with my husband. We got married and I had a baby and I had to make money. And so I was doing internet services because I'm really, really technically adept. And I'd done so much production at that point that I could oversee artists, I could oversee engineers, I could oversee budgets, I could do all that crap. And I did that. I did that for, you know, it was like, here, make a website about this car company, make a website about this, whatever. I had a lot of
Another
employees.
thing I didn't know.
Yeah, I had a lot of people reporting to me. I had a lot of responsibility, and I was really miserable. It was a soul-killing exercise. So, and all during that time that I was doing tech, I was also a rock singer. So I had these really insanely brilliant rock bands in New York City, like crazy brilliant musicians in this band with me.
An opera singer, game developer, now
Rock singer.
I know, just see, this is
CBGBs.
I love this.
You know, I mean, we played all
You're your
over
only
New-
relationship in a disc.
I mean, really, if you want to see my CV is like, I'm old, right? It's really long.
Oh, I
There's a
love it.
lot of shit that I've done.
And you've done a lot.
A lot, yeah. So anyway, I had this rock band. I had 2 rock bands, and really brilliant musicians in them, and original music, and blah blah blah. So during
now
that
you're out
time,
here.
I had taught myself during that time to not only do, you know, rock music, but to sing ethnically, right? I just was really interested in that. And one day when I came out here, I heard these cantors singing this like super ethnic singing, and I'm like, if I had the right teacher, I could learn to do that. And then I could be a cantor. That would be so cool. Like, what? And so
and tell people what a cantor is for those that don't know.
right. So a cantor is a member of the Jewish clergy. It's sort. I like to say this. It's not really accurate, but I like to say it's kind of like a rabbi who sings. It's the person in the service who's responsible for the spiritual. For the spiritual dive that you do in a service through music, through the human voice. And so I went and studied with I cold called the World Authority on this particular type of Jewish singing. And he said, yeah, come study with me. So he was a really older man living in Manhattan. I flew back. I studied with him for a while.
And he's a cantor?
He's a cantor, and he was a teacher at Hebrew Union College and also at whatever the big Orthodox. I can't remember what it's called. It'll come to me later.
But where were you? What temple were you at? Wilshire?
Well, eventually I came back here after I'd studied with him in New York for a couple of weeks, and I was hired by Wilshire Boulevard Temple to be their Hazan. Their second, their
great.
Hazan Sheni, their second cantor. And so I was on full pulpit rotation for 6 years. I taught music at the day school, which was I love teaching. Teaching was wonderful. I love being around kids. It was an awesome job for me. And in addition to that, at the temple, I also trained bar mitzvah kids. I did every Friday night service. I did Saturday morning services. I did all the festivals. I did high holidays. Blah blah blah.
Okay, first I'm amazed at everything. One of the things I want to know, because you're so on. What? How can I say this? It doesn't seem like you ever saw resistance to anything. You just went, I think I want to do this, and you did it.
Yeah, no, that's true, but there was resistance.
Okay, because you just seem like someone who just did it.
I dive in. And
you
do
dive
it.
in and
I
did
do
it. So and so
even if it's terrifying, which being a cantor, the first year or so, like doing all that stuff for the very first time. Hey, you're gonna do high holiday services at the Wiltern Theater.
So
There's
what do you-
2,500 people there in a full chorus.
What do
and
you
don't
tell
know what the
yourself?
hell you're doing.
What do you say to yourself when there's that fear trigger? What do you say to yourself when you're thinking, well, I could do this, or I could not do it? So what's the payoff?
Well, okay, so the first thing is hyper preparation. right? So going into High Holidays, I left no stone unturned. I rehearsed all summer long for hours and hours every day, all the music. That we
Okay,
used.
that's
so
really,
there was
really.
that.
I got to hear that.
That
yeah.
was huge. And then this was the thing I kept saying to myself, almost like a mantra. There will only be one time that there's the first time. If you can get through this one
Only
time,
there's
you'll
the first
never
time.
have
Only
to have
one
another
time
time
there's
that's the first time
That's
again.
a quotable.
Yeah,
That's
next
really
time
quotable.
it will not be the first time.
There's
You'll have done it and gone through it. So if I can just muscle my way through this first time and stay focused,
I love that.
Then
There's only one
that'll
time.
be
I
it.
have to write that down too.
I'm writing it down. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I want to do some fun stuff, and then we can get back into completing our where Psyche is going
Yeah.
and where you're going, because we don't have a lot of time.
yeah,
but
because I talk a lot.
But that's
I love
okay.
it.
I know,
I
and
love it.
I'm having to interrupt you because we want to do our fun thing because it'll be interesting when the audience hears what your theme song is. So
Yes.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yes.
so
Every time you walk into a room, now we've heard everything of
all this
that.
great stuff about you.
Yes. What would your theme song be every time you walked into a room?
And you told us.
I told you my theme song would be Strawberry Fields.
Nothing is real.
Yeah.
Real.
Listen to that though.
Nothing to get hung about.
Oh, that's
goes-
right.
it
There you
goes-
go. Nothing together.
Feels forever.
1, 2, 3.
Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstanding all you see.
Such a great lyric.
It's a fantastic song.
That is
So
great.
it's an amazing.
Nothing to get hung about, and that's what you do. You just say, only one first time.
Only one first
Yeah.
time. That's a biggie.
And the other thing there's a couple other things about that song that speak to me. One is that it's just really weird musically. I mean, it's just we all know the song so well, it's just imprinted. But, if you were to come to that song for the very first time, never having heard it, it makes so many twists and turns. And my favorite thing in music was, how did we get here from over there? Like, it's so weird. And that's how
Exactly.
I like to write. And then I love this
That's
idea
how you like to
of-
live, it seems like.
It is. And then the opening lyric, let me take you down, because I'm going to Strawberry Fields. I feel that's the role of the artist. I'm going over here, you guys. I'm going to dive as deep as I can. You're welcome to come with me. That's the notion that speaks to me in that lyric.
So talking deep and diving,
Yeah.
what about the future of Psyche?
Yeah, talk about the future of Psyche.
Yes.
You met with coming back around. You met with the agent. You didn't know what you were going to say. You put your suit on. You go
Yeah.
in there, and then what happened in a minute?
I explained to them who I was. I went through that whole thing
Yep.
that I just told you, and then blah, blah, blah. I was a cantor. And then I said, oh, did you have a chance to listen to my opera? And Michael turned to me. Actually, Victoria said, and I didn't know her at all. She goes,
I know who she is.
But I didn't know her at that moment, right? I had no idea who she was. And she said, I was dying to call you yesterday to tell you this, but I wanted to save this right for this moment.
Oh.
And I looked over at Michael and he said, I love your opera and I can't wait to get my hands on it, and blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there in my suit going, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. I mean, it was really like very
so happy
emotional
to
for
hear
me.
that.
Yeah. So Michael and I, that was like a year and a half ago, something like that. And we have just pushed our way. We've pushed this boulder up to the top. And then it rolled down and we had this show. Michael had these images the images that you saw in your head were the things that he said to me that day. I see Ariel. I see this. I see a crumbled cathedral. I see.
It was
yeah.
spectacular. I mean, the set was amazing. The choreography, the music.
Janet
and all that,
Roston, she's an amazing
The
choreographer.
choreography was wonderful.
Stephen Gifford did
all
the
those.
sets.
Every actor was superb, and I know I saw some people that were understudies that night. I was on closing night, and I think your
Oh, yeah.
Aphrodite was
yeah.
not your regular
Yeah,
Aphrodite.
we had Robin Roth and Laura Thomas was our main cast. After that.
Yeah.
They're both great. Yeah.
It was really extraordinary to watch it, and the audience had quite an experience. And where is it going to go from here? And then what's next for you?
Okay. So Psyche, we're working hard to move it to the next level. We won't be doing another 99-seat Los Angeles production. We're hoping to go into either a bigger space here. We'd like to take it on tour. We're talking to people about perhaps taking it to New York or perhaps taking it to Paris, which would be amazing.
Sure.
So we're just at the point where we put it up. We looked at it. We're thinking about structural changes we may want to make. There's a few things Michael and I want to fix. And then we're gonna keep moving forward. There's definitely a big life we're hoping for Psyche going forward. So we're working on
And
it.
do you still canter?
No, I don't. Once in a while, somebody will ask me to do a service, and I actually love it. I loved being a cantor. It was great because all the artifice is stripped away. There's nothing. There's no stage lights. There's no clothing. There's no purple hair. There's no applause.
Right.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just you. It's just you, and you have to drop your ego and just be there as in service to everybody else.
You've got more projects with Michael prepared.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Anything you can tell us about or not yet?
Well, there's two things that I have going forward. So I'm working on a piece right now, actually, with Janet Roston, who was the choreographer for Psyche, but she is choreographing and directing this piece that we're both building. About Anais Nin and her relationship with Henry Miller.
Isn't that gonna be amazing? Right.
Yeah.
Her relationship with
Henry Miller.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's going to be the new. I remember that movie a few years ago.
Yeah, there was
This is going to be the new one for those who didn't see it.
Yeah. So this one, we're calling it a dance opera. It's an unusual structure, but anyway, we're in the middle of building it. I've written about 40 minutes of that, and then Michael and I are going to go off in another year after my daughter Gracie Wall goes to college. We're going to try to do a residency, and we're going to be taking a very big myth that's got a very big male protagonist, and we're going to flip it and tell it from the female's perspective.
I love that. Yeah. If people wanted to find your work or find you, where would they go?
They can go to cindyshapiro.net. If they want to know more about Psyche, it's psycherockopera.com.
psycherockopera.com, cindyshapiro.net. Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter, at Cindy Shapiro.
At Cindy Shapiro. Are you on Facebook?
I am. Cindy
You are
Shapiro.
on Facebook. I do know that because and is there a Psyche page on there?
There is.
There's a Psyche page. Okay, great. Is there anything coming up that anyone could see you, meet you? I'm sure people could take Cindy to coffee. I'm sure she'd say.
Oh, I know. There's one thing that is coming up on Friday. A film that I have played a very small role in is premiering at Lemley. And I'm going to the premiere. My friends Maggie Baird and Lori Collins wrote this piece called Life Inside Out. It's a film.
Life Inside Out.
And I'm going to play at the party. I'm going to play live at the party afterwards.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. We're really pretty much got to wrap things up. Tell us who we have next week.
Next week, we have Annie O'Neill, who wrote this wonderful book called Everyday Camino with Annie about the Camino de Santiago, which she has also done a movie about. And the Camino is something that the movie came out last year called The Way, and it is in Spain, and it is a 500-mile walk that people take as pilgrims, and she will talk about that with her book and her movie and her experience, and how people are reading this book as they're walking, and they're reading it as they know people that are walking and not walking it.
Yay. We are delighted to have her. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us like us on Facebook. We did not have a giveaway tonight, and that is totally okay because we're going to have plenty next week. Let's see, what else can I say?
And if you want to sponsor us, please do.
We're looking for sponsors, so please send us a little note, and we'd be happy to have you on board. And it's Gratitude Tuesday. So, Cindy, something you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for my daughter Gracie.
Love Gracie.
She's just a wonderful, dear person, and we're very close. And not only do I not embarrass her, she's actually proud of me and likes me. Likes my music, likes my work, loves me.
She probably thinks you're the coolest
great
mom.
Girl.
She's a wonderful. I don't know what I did to deserve that kid, but I'm so grateful for her. She's wonderful. Yeah.
She probably thinks you're a cool mom.
I think she does.
Yeah,
it's really
cool
weird.
Mom. Yeah,
I mean, she's almost 18, and I don't know, but she likes me.
I'm grateful, as always. I'm grateful for the show. Grateful for UBN that gives us this platform, and grateful that we've got listeners that write in, that text us, that send us notes. How about you?
I am just so grateful to have that lesson in Psyche because it makes me want to go back and be just that lit major in me just goes, wow, I get so turned on by that. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right, so thank you for tuning in. We're going to be next week with Annie O'Neill, and just remember, you are amazing.
You are amazing.
All right, bye everyone.
I'm amazing.